Hello and welcome to PubShorts episode 48. Here comes AI again for peer
What
review.
a great name selection. What a
So,
great name selection.
the original song that we are referencing here is a Eurythmics hit. Here comes the rain again that Tony's holding up. Wow, Tony, you got probably all the records ever put out in the world. So let's introduce
Oh,
ourselves. Yeah. So my name is Dr. KK. I am the innovation officer at Trinka and Inago, and I have with me Tony. Hi, Tony.
hi, KK. I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm VP for Partnerships here at Inago. I've just come back from the London Book Fair, which is a great event here in the UK. Seemed like the only topic of conversation people had at the London Book Fair yesterday was around AI. So this episode is very apposite.
Excellent.
Um,
So let's talk about the London Book Fair. What were the sort of key things apart from obviously what you just mentioned that AI was the key theme? Did you?
Well, I didn't attend any of the conference sessions. Unfortunately, I was too busy with meetings. But did look at the conference, and there are lots of topics around the use of AI, the responsible use of AI
Mm-hmm.
in publishing, not just in scholarly publishing. But the London Book Fair is a general book fair. So the STM, the scientific publishing section, was next door to the children's books
Mm-hmm.
section of the conference.
I see.
Again, the technology, you can see the technology is being really used and discussed in every single publishing.
Right, right. And is there a sort of a theme? You mentioned AI. Is it in the context of something specific for maybe for research integrity, flawed detections, or maybe peer review or something like that?
But the London Book Fair has kind of channels,
Mm-hmm.
and the scientific, the academic publishing channels will look at sort of research integrity issues. But as I say, bear in mind, it is a much bigger show. It's not just
Right, right.
it's also trade publishing. So they would look at aspects relating to children's books or
Hmm.
uh, fiction, non-fiction books. There's a very wide variety of topics covered there.
And did copyright licensing, which you predicted as a major thing, came up at all in terms of books and intellectual property?
It's copyright licensing is the reason why people go to the London Book Fair is to
Okay.
recite to buy rights.
All right. All right. Okay. So, to remind our our audience that the topic of the episode is peer review related AI innovation, and let's start, Tony, with the first of two main articles or research studies that we have for peer review in the context of AI. So, I'm going to shift to my screen share. The first
Oh
one
yeah,
is, the first one is an archive preprint published late last month. It is titled "Is Your Paper Being Reviewed by an LLM?" A new benchmark data set and approach for detecting AI text in peer review. In very interesting, Tony, let me just read a couple of points and I'll ask for your thoughts. So the problem that this paper, the research is trying to address is whether peer reviewers are using LLMs and generating their review comments using AI LLMs, that is. So it introduced a very large scale benchmark data set of about 780,000 or 790,000 AI written peer reviews which were used, and this data set is paired with human written reviews, and many, I think, state of the art LLMs were used, including GPT 4o, Claude Sonnet 3.5, Gemini 1.5 Pro, Quen, and Alibaba, the Alibaba model, and Llama 3.170B.
yeah,
So the authors, Tony, assess 18 existing AI text detection algorithms and show that many struggle to achieve low false positive rates, and they propose a novel anchor embedding detection approach, which is what is represented in this infographic, that combines a semantic similarity between test review and an LLM generated reference. That is
yeah,
the anchor. And
yeah.
apparently, this method significantly improves the detection accuracies, especially for reviews which have text that have signs that have been generated. I mean, that they have been generated using GPT 4o. Interesting. So overall, the it is for AI content detection in the context of peer review. So this is the first time I'm seeing this. Your thoughts, and maybe you have.
Absolutely the first time, and I know this is a real concern for publishers generally. We know that publishers are mandating to authors that if you're using AI or using a generative AI to help generate your paper, then you need to declare that. What I don't know is then the conversation with the reviewer. What's
Mm-hmm,
the publisher doing about ensuring that if the reviewer is using AI
mm-hmm.
in any way, that that's also being declared? Uh, I haven't seen. I'm sure there are policies in place to take that. But I mean, I had a conversation yesterday with a publisher specifically about this, in terms of what are reviewers using
Hmm.
to what tools are reviewers using to generate their reviews.
And another thing, incidentally, yesterday I had a conversation with the publisher Tony, where they brought up, when we were discussing our AI peer review assistant, they brought up the point that we should be communicating. If suppose when it goes live and it is integrated somewhere and reviewers start using it, then we need to inform reviewers as to how they can use it, as well as inform the final. That is the author who's going to read the reviewer comments, to what extent AI has been used. All of these made a lot of sense. Transparencies and explainability is very important in such systems.
Yeah, I think the focus up till now has been on the author. I think we're going to start to see a lot more focus on the review process as well.
Yes, and another thing, I guess, maybe you can explain this further. We are building obviously an AI peer review assistant system
Yes.
to be
Yep.
integrated with publishers. And one of the things that we are very conscious about is to ensure that there is no abuse of AI. AI is always taken as assistance. It provides a lot of rich insights which have to be cross-checked and verified by the reviewer. So there is always 100% human oversight. So do you have any further thoughts to add to that?
No further thoughts to add to that, apart from to say, the peer review is a very important area for us because we're not only providing or developing tools to support publishers,
Hmm.
we also provide peer review services.
Right.
So if a publisher or a research organization needs expert review, then they can come to us and we can provide a reviewer that's suitably qualified to be able to provide that review.
And another thing, I guess we also should mention, because this paper is after all about AI content detection. So we also have the Trinka brand also has an AI content detector that we offer. So if
Oh,
anybody is
yeah.
interested, yeah, please get in touch with Tony or
Well,
get.
in fact, it's funny you say that, KK, because again, another conversation I had yesterday was with a company that provides library services.
Right.
And what they're finding increasingly is that libraries within their region are turning to them to provide sort of information services, publishing services. And one of the things that they have things like plagiarism checkers, no kind of things, but what they don't have
Hmm.
is access to a good AI content detection tool to help the author at the point they're creating their content. So that's something which is it's a real live issue.
Right, and the false positive issue continues to be an issue throughout the industry, and maybe this anchor embedding detection approach, which has been used for review AI content, maybe can also be used for other purposes. So let's keep our fingers crossed as to how this can be successfully implemented. So Tony, I'm
Yeah,
moving on to the next sort of related research. It is another preprint, again published in Archive about a couple of weeks ago. It is titled Automatically Evaluating the Paper Reviewing Capability of Large Language Model. So this is pretty similar to what we have already discussed, but I think because we have discussed all the other similar research, I think we should also discuss this. So it introduces an automated evaluation pipeline that compares LLM generated reviews with expert reviews, and this is built on approximately 676 open review papers. And so the researchers developed a coding scheme to automatically annotate the strengths and weaknesses based on targets. So some of I think it's quite well explained in this. So strengths and weaknesses are evaluated both by the large language model as well as the reviewer, and these are compared against each other. And the targets that they have given for these comparisons are the problem that is, I think, we addressed in the study, the methodology, the theory, the experiment, and in other aspects such as novelty, validity, clarity, and impact. So the classical things that a peer reviewer is supposed to evaluate in a paper.
yeah,
And several large language models, including GPT variants, Llama, and DeepSeek models, were evaluated. And the findings, Tony, not surprising, findings reveal that LLMs tend to generate a consistent number of review points, that is across LLMs, different LLMs, because every, let's say, brand of AI model is evolving, and they are consistently generating the same level of, let's say, quality, but they show a biased focus on the technical validity while largely overlooking the critical novelty related assessments.
yeah.
So Tony,
Yeah,
do you
isn't that the golden? That's the golden goose, isn't it? That's the kind of the golden egg that everyone's looking for is a tool which will help them to determine the novelty of the paper. I mean,
right?
we've about tools that have been developed in that area, but that's still this is it reinforces that
Right. So, Tony, I think a few episodes ago we talked about another research from preprint, which had a specific sort of research-related information regarding a novelty module for just this,
Yeah,
because it needs a specific attention, an agentic workflow that focuses on identifying the novelty of the paper based on existing literature and the research that has already been conducted. So, I
yeah,
guess that there are some research, at least projects on the, I mean, undergoing regarding solving that puzzle. So let's hope that that also works out. So a couple of other points from this. The study also finds that LLMs produce a poor acceptance decisions compared to human experts. That's again interesting, which means that LLMs consider or will find flags, more flags, maybe false positive flags compared to humans.
yeah.
And which again, every such research that we have talked about brings brings us to the same conclusion that at the current level of AI innovation, we still need humans in the
Absolutely. A
in the
human insight is still core. Who's to say in 10 years' time it may be a different conversation? But as the technology stands today, and this only reinforces it, as you rightly say, the need for human intervention is still critical.
right. And so we just talked about our AI peer review assistant product that we are developing and we're working
Yeah.
on, which puts the human in the center, and there are different aspects
Yeah.
of this which always keeps the human reviewer engaged
And
in the
it's always, and it's really important to make clear that this tool is there to assist the reviewer, not to replace the reviewer.
right.
So yeah, and that's really important. You want to make the process as easy, as transparent, as broad as possible, and
Right.
you can use AI to do that. But you still need expert intervention to expert opinion to really sort of close it off.
Right, Tony. Also, another point that we could probably discuss in the context of this is that, we've talked about the volumes of papers, and these volumes are both sort of a problem for publishers, accepted as standard
Yeah,
publisher, as
yeah,
well as the preprint servers. And there are we've already discussed some technologies or researches regarding screening of preprint papers, and we ourselves are working on it. And our goal is to give the screener did not have assistance as much of detailed information regarding potential issues with the preprint, so that they can make a faster, quicker decision, so that the quality of preprints is higher than it has been, right, Tony?
yeah. Historically, there's been this perception that because preprints don't go through the same sort of rigorous peer review process as a journal might, that there's still a kind of a perceived quality issue, and in reality, it's not. You have in certain subject areas where the preprint is absolutely dominant. The preprint is the first and only thing that the researcher looks at, and particularly in areas of physics, for example, which is my background historically. Where energy areas like high energy physics or even astrophysics, where people are looking at archive before they look at anything else.
Right.
It's the difference between the published journal article and the preprint article, and the time it takes between the preprint appearing and the published article appearing, means that those researchers will always refer back to the preprint first, because the differences are so
Right.
generally minor. But however, it
Hmm.
doesn't go. But what preprint organisations are doing increasingly, and I think rightly so, is demonstrating to the world that there is rigor, and there has always been rigor in the process of identifying the quality and the importance of a document. So we're developing tools that will help preprint organizations to manage that process.
Excellent. We look forward to the announcements. And this is another sort of related story from Nature. It's a career column, and it's titled "Three AI Powered Steps to Faster, Smarter Peer Review." So I think before we started recording this, streaming this, you asked me how peer reviewers could possibly be using AI right now, right? So
Yeah,
some of the answers are proposed by this writer. So it primarily, the focus of the article is on how to use AI to improve the peer review processes, because let's face it, peer review, it has a lot of problems that it needs to solve, including volume and reviewer availability and the lack of time, and so much more information that is generally available. To keep up with the literature is a task. So many reviewers are spending more, as per the article, more hours on reviews or more time on reviews, leading to burnout and less participation. So these are the three steps proposed by the author. They are basically scanning, dictating, and refining. So I'll explain what these are. Scanning is to quickly identify major flaws in a paper. You can equate it to what we are talking about screening as well as assistance in terms of going through a paper and identifying things that the reviewer needs to closely look at. Maybe answering the questions of a structured peer review, and then the dictation involves capturing the thoughts of the reviewer in real time. So in this case, you could even think of like a dictation kind of a thing, or maybe AI assisted commentary, because the reviewer does not need to actually write full fleshed out sentences, but it can be improved by grammar help, etc. Those kind of a thing. But it's the article mentions dictation. And finally, the what is it? Refining involves using offline AI tools to organize feedback. Which basically, if suppose you have dictated, so your text is raw, it needs to be put in the context, maybe tightened, improved, contextualized with references and everything. All of these are, if you want to look at it in terms of what a reviewer how a reviewer should be using their AI tools, it's not just large language models, general AI tools. It's a good way to look at it. And
Mm.
interestingly, Tony, this is exactly what we are also trying to build in our AI peer review. We are assisting by helping reviewers scan the paper faster, even with a summary, and we are helping reviewers write, making sure that their grammar and everything is accurate. And eventually, we are all collating all of it so that the editors as well as the reviewers get a high level overview of the strengths and weaknesses of the paper. So
Yeah,
as
everybody's thinking about this. It's a really hot area.
yeah, so this is interesting. So any reviewers, maybe even authors who are watching, maybe you can try doing this, following these steps, and see what results you have. Let's see if you
Yeah.
have any thoughts. If you already have used AI for whatever purposes in terms of peer review, let us know. We would love to know what you have done and how you're using AI.
I mean, the one thing I was curious when I read this article was I hadn't come across Chat GPT for all. Is how big is that? How big a file is that?
it's
Is it
it's
a
it's actually not Chat GPT for all, it's GPT for all. It is.
Chat GPT for
So
all?
the
Yeah.
thing, I think these are called small language models. A modern laptop can easily install these models. You don't need a big server. So some of
Oh,
these are so good, or rather so small yet so good, that you can install it on a regular laptop.
amazing.
Yeah. So this is install GPT for all. I personally, I think I mentioned a couple of months ago on a PubShorts episode that I'm planning to install one. I haven't yet gotten around to doing it because it's not so easy, and I'm not from a coding.
Well, let's plan an episode of PubShorts where we how your experience of using it.
All right, maybe in the future. So moving on to the next one, it is again a new sort of player in the, I guess, AI-assisted peer review space. Tony, this introduces this a research paper titled "Artemis: Automated Review and Trustworthy Evaluation of Manuscripts in Science." So
A
it's
brilliant name, a really, really good name. It's a really good name. I mean, people will remember Artemis. So that's a really good name to come up with.
right. So this is obviously a research paper with abstract and everything, all the things, and it's on Research Hub. It addresses the common challenges in peer review, such as reviewer shortages and inconsistent evaluations. And apparently, Artemis leverages automated algorithms to assess manuscripts across multiple criteria. And the aim of the system, Tony, because we don't have the under the hoods look, we have a screenshot that I'll share. The system aims to provide objective, transparent, and trustworthy feedback for authors. And the design, which I will actually shift to this, this is the design as a screenshot provided within the paper itself. It emphasizes reliability and standardization of the review process. So, as far as I can see, there are some configuration panels here, some new features on this side. And the preprint of the manuscript, which is being reviewed on the left hand side, which looks like a PDF with the line numbering and everything, and you can scroll it. And on the right hand side, we have the actual comments from the editors or the peer reviewers, which will be the sort of output of the system. I do not have anything else to see here. So your thoughts after you heard the main key features of this and what you see here?
It doesn't surprise me that organisations like Research Hub are developing these sorts of tools. I mean, it's as I said, the importance of human intervention now is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely essential. 10 years down the line, we don't know what it's going to be like. 5 years down the line, it could be that tools like this are so powerful, are so good, are so strong that human peer review um, isn't as important today. It's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
In 10 years' time, who knows?
So one thing, Tony, I just noticed this in the editor comment on the right hand side. If you can see persona ID one, role name immunologist specialized in a vaccine related adverse event. I do not know if these are personas for the AI to look at the review, as in look at the paper and provide higher quality comments than otherwise, and a generic persona may not give you as high quality
No,
in terms of output.
no,
So interesting.
and these, but it's interesting to see these tools developing.
Hmm. So anyway, so this is something to
We
keep
need to
an
keep monitoring it.
yeah, keep an eye on. And there is something else which is even more interesting in terms of a name. But I'll move to the next big story. This is from this the Science Editor blog, CSE blog, and it's a feature article. There are two parts to it. I'm only discussing part two because it covers
Yeah,
more of the things related to what we generally discuss here. So it's titled "Diversification and Decentralization of Peer Review," Part Two. Tools that facilitate, and tools and technologies, I would add. So it discusses tools and technologies, as I mentioned, facilitating decentralized peer review. The highlights are the system. The highlights are that the system-to-system communication protocols like MECA, which stands for Manuscript Exchange Common Approach, and there are other things like Confederation of Open Access Repositories, COAR, Notify, Documaps. These are all discussed. Basically, systems need to talk to each other, Tony, and metadata needs to be accurate. And we are looking at open research systems, including persistent identifiers, etc., so that we are not ambiguous about who is doing what and what is where.
yeah.
So sounds
And
like
this article is written by a gentleman called Tony Alves, who
mm,
works for Highwire. And we talked about journal platforms before and why journal platforms are important. Highwire historically has been a very important platform, particularly for medical journals. I mean, it has other journals as well. So what Tony, I think, is saying here is that organisations like Highwire are considering what they require in order to become future proof in terms of managing peer review products, peer review solutions that publishers are asking them to integrate.
yeah, so this is yet another. I think we'll cover more such stories. Scholarly Kitchen has a lot of feature articles on the infrastructure of science communication in academia with metadata and everything. So even this article touches on all of this, including persistent identifiers and necessary digital infrastructure. And the entire the focus is on interoperability. That's every system needs to talk to each other. For example, Tony, we have products which depend on OpenAlex and Crossref data to provide rich information to our customers, right? So if that information is not accurate, then obviously the product is also not going to be useful for the customer. So it's very
Correct.
important from our point of view as well. So do you think the metadata, the accuracy of metadata is a theme that you hear being discussed in conferences that you attend?
I listen. I'm old enough to know how long this discussion has taken place. Ever since there's been electronic publishing, and keyword indexing and indexing generally, metadata has become it's been top of the list in terms of accuracy and reliability,
Mm-hmm.
and interoperability exactly the same. I remember having a conversation, gosh, 15 years ago with a member of the tech team for a publisher I worked for at the time. And everything was around what can we do to make our products interoperable? What can we
Mm-hmm.
do to make our solutions interoperable in order to, make us future proof and to bring in future technologies where we need to?
Right, and I just realized I should mention this. Doc Maps seems to be a breadcrumb trail for research evaluation, and it's something that to keep an eye on, because this is something that I've been looking at in terms of preventing research integrity related issues. Because if you have some sort of an identifier that is attached to research outputs, then obviously we can trace its origins and make sure that it is what it is and it's not copied. So interesting, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
There's,
I'm
there's, there's no question there's some really, really interesting work happening in the background, which may not necessarily be impacting on researchers today, but will impact on researchers and make their life so much easier.
Yeah, and if you're interested in keeping up with what's happening, you can tune into PubShorts, which is a weekly episodic, streaming multiple episodes every week because of the the news cycle. It's so
Really,
dense.
it's so dense.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to quick hits, we have three today. So the first one, this I thought you would have a very strong opinion regarding this, Tony. So this is from the, I think, London School of Economics. It is a blog article. If we want better academic writing, we should rethink IMRAD. So I'll just let you comment on this. You understood what I think the theme of the article is. What do you think? Do you think that this is IMRAD should not be a thing across all subject areas?
Um, academic writing varies from subject area to subject area. You can't apply one. Well, I don't see how you can apply one approach that would then fit in every single subject area. How somebody creates a piece of content in the social sciences or in the humanities is so different from how they might, create a protocols article in a physics journal or a medical journal or a article in a physics journal. I think it's good that some specialist subject areas think about what works best in their given areas.
Well, you
But
have just summarized the first 200 words of the article itself. So IMRAD stands for Introduction, Method, Results, and Discussion, which is a standard structure for natural sciences paper, as the author argues here.
yeah,
Now, what the author is also arguing that it such a structure encourages risk-averse research and affects the types of studies conducted. And some see IMRAD as democratizing academia, making papers easier to read and write, which I think I would agree, because I know where to look for what. But it also, the critics are saying that it also supports academic capitalism, focusing on publication metrics over quality, which is also an argument that I can relate to, in the sense, if suppose everybody, regardless of research area, is supposed to write in a certain structure, maybe it is capitalism itself. It's in force. So the
I've heard it referred to as that before, in academic capitalism. But
well,
yes, I understand what they're trying to say.
yeah, and the author suggests. I actually, can you pronounce the name of the author? I
Uh, I'm sure I could pronounce it incorrectly. Oyun Zustad Hoydal. Yeah, no.
Hoydal. Okay,
No,
Hoydal.
the answer to your question is no. I'm
Okay,
sorry, Dr. Hoydal.
Dr. Hoydal suggests exploring diverse writing styles and that better capture the richness of social sciences. So again, drifting away from natural sciences, and the community needs to reflect on academic writing practices to improve creativity, to foster creativity and versatility and understanding. Right. So it's a very interesting article, I thought. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. It's a very interesting article, and I should read it in more detail when we finish this podcast.
And another question to you. So, because we have been talking about structured peer review will work perfectly for IMRAD most of the time, but it may not work for non-IMRAD specialty. So, we need customized solution. So, the structured peer review needs a alternative approach,
Yeah,
and that's something that we are working on as well.
you
So,
know, with publishers who are operating in multiple subject areas,
mm,
and there's no question that the processes that are being used in one subject area are quite different, very different in some cases than in others.
yeah.
So we need to be adaptive, we need to be flexible, it needs to be
And
customized.
and one of the reasons why publishers work with us is because of our modularity, adaptability, and customizability for their
I'd
problems.
like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So the next quick hit, the second last one, is a Scholarly Kitchen article. I think you just recently read it, Tony. It's
Yeah.
creating the publishing platforms that next generation professionals expect. So I'm just going to summarize. So millennials and Gen Z, which obviously not us, Tony, you and I, have different content consumption habits, heavily influenced by digital platforms like TikTok and Spotify.
Yeah.
So the author, Angela Cochran, is arguing that the publishing platform and they need to evolve to cater to such audiences. So some of the things that is being discussed are virtual volunteering and micro volunteering. These are trends that needs to be embraced in academia, and mobile friendly and gamified peer review systems could engagement, reviewer engagement. What do you think? Gamification of peer review systems?
Yeah, there's no question that the platforms will have to adapt according to the way early career researchers want to work. But I think one of the interesting things about this article, and unless I've missed it,
Mhm.
is that it's quite US centric. If you think about China, for example, China, where social media tools like WeChat are absolutely dominant. This is how not just the researchers, but everybody absorbs content. What are publishers doing to make their content accessible and available in the way that the WeChat users in China, the 100 million, however many WeChat users there are in China, expect to use it. So yeah, I think it's important that it's an important piece. Andrew is establishing a real clear need for platforms to evolve, absolutely, according to the way millennials and Gen Z researchers of the future want to work. But they have to also take into account other way other countries operate as well.
Yeah, so a couple of sort of responses to what you just said. One, I think the hint of the, as in the The main point of the paper is not the platform itself, but the content and the means. For example, receiving updates regarding your submission on a WeChat, which is a service that we provide for publishers to get to researchers in China. That is, we have Charles Words provides WeChat gateway services, which you can find more about if you search for Charles Words and gateway services, and it's very popular. Many publishers have tied up with us. So that level of
But
updates,
that's just one. It's
yeah.
a really really important channel, really and very useful, superbly useful for publishers that are using it. But WeChat is this huge tool. You know, it's so much more embedded in the culture there than any of the social media tools here.
Right. So what I was saying is that so in terms of communicating and receiving notifications and updates is one thing. The second thing is the actual means. For example, we've always had PDF is a good example, right? We still publish PDFs even though we are always publishing online, for example.
Yeah,
So the content format and the type, you can think of short form videos, for example. Should peer reviews be a selfie video of the reviewer talking to a camera explaining what are the strengths and the weaknesses, for example?
yeah. Well, it's a really good point about the PDF. Again, I'm old enough to remember those conversations as to what formats researchers want to see when they're looking at an academic article. Is it PDF? Is it HTML? Is it SGML? Whatever it might be. And the reason why PDF was popular was because of the way researchers at that time were absorbing content. They wanted the page to look like a printed page. So they want the PDF represented an electronic version of the printed page. If the Gen Z researcher, the early career researcher today, the millennial, isn't using the printed page anymore, doesn't even look at the printed version of the books or the journals, and everything is absorbed online, what are you replicating? Why are you replicating a PDF for them? So you have to, it is important for platforms to be able to deliver content in whatever way those researchers want to be able to consume it.
Yeah, a couple of things that I should not miss is that the author suggests a user-friendly content platform similar to Spotify. I cannot imagine a Spotify for research papers. That'll be fun in terms of what.
Oh, that exists. That exists. I mean, I haven't looked at it recently, but there's this wonderful tool that was launched years and years ago called Deep Dive. And what Deep Dive did was to create almost like a Spotify for
Academic.
huge long list that you could
Yeah, but I'm also thinking about the licensing and the fees that a user or a reader must need to pay. I mean, I don't know if there are platforms where you can pay the centralized one fee and you can still access content across publishers.
There are various options available, legal and unfortunately illegal,
Okay.
according to the world copyright
Okay,
rules.
we'll continue to talk about this. And the last quick hit is an article again regarding AI for peer review. So this is a very interesting title. Meet Carl, the first AI system to produce academically peer-reviewed research. So I'm going to quickly read my notes. So Autoscience is a brand. Autoscience Institute has launched Carl, an AI system that produces peer-reviewed research with minimal human intervention, Tony. And
Yeah.
Carl follows similar processes that we have discussed already, but human intervention, Tony, is limited in the context of Carl to green lighting, citations, checking and formatting. And Carl's papers have apparently passed rigorous verification for originality and standards compliance. And Autoscience, the makers of Carl, are planning to propose a workshop at Newer IPS, which is a common place where peer review related AI innovation is discussed in Newer IPS 2025 conference for autonomous research systems. So, your thoughts?
I think I've said everything I need to say about academically generated peer review. But now the idea that AI can actually generate actual original research itself, we have touched on this before in previous episodes. And we are going to see more and more of this. The reality is we don't know how much of the research that's taking place today is actually being generated using AI anyway. And with our AI content detection tools, we're able to, isolate some of those examples. But the tools are getting more and more sophisticated. So I think this is kind of unfortunately inevitable.
Well, AI is inevitable, and that's why the episode is titled "Here Comes Again." And we are at the end of Episode 48. Here comes AI again for peer review. So, Tony, we've already discussed London Book Fair. I'm sure that you've updated your social media with your whatever experiences, your thoughts while you attend. So, if they want, if our audience wants to get to know you, what you've been doing, how can they know it, and
Yeah,
how can they
so
write
you
you?
can get hold of me at on LinkedIn, or you can contact me, and KK also, of course, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Or you can find me at tonyo@inago.com, and I'll be happy to respond to any comments or suggestions that you might have.
Yeah, and if you're interested in watching all the 47 previous episodes of Pub Shots, we will be live streaming on YouTube consistently, but maybe not all frequently on LinkedIn. So if you are watching this on YouTube, and that would be on the Inago channel, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification
Yeah,
icon.
but the links to the episodes will still be on LinkedIn, so
Yes,
they
yes.
to view
We
little snippets and the links to the articles themselves.
Right, but we have a playlist for all the episodes. So if you're interested, because we've been discussing all sorts of things, including peer review, innovation for the last maybe 4 or 5 months, and
Yeah,
whatever whatever pearls of wisdom that Tony and I have to share regarding all of this, you can get that there, and you can also drop us a note as to what you liked or what what you want us to cover, and we would love to take all of your suggestions. So far, we have received whatever feedback that we have received. We have tried to put that into the content that we produce for
yeah,
future episodes. So thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you once again. And Tony, until the next time, which I do not know when, but very soon, this is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony and the rest of the team that helps us in bringing such content to you. This is Dr. KK signing off. We will see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye, Tony.
See you next time.